Sue? What is it?
What have you done to my son?
The gift's rather an excessive reward for such a small gesture.
Anna Maxwell Martin plays Sarah Burton, a schoolteacher who arrives in 1930s Yorkshire as the new headmistress of a local girls' school. She's got reformist energy, she's ready to change things, and she immediately clashes with Robert Carn, played by David Morrissey. He's a conservative landowner who sits on the education committee. Sarah can't stand him. He's landed privilege, resistance to change, everything she came here to fight against. But Robert isn't just an obstacle. His wife is confined to a mental asylum. His estate is crumbling around him. He's this proud, haunted man trying to hold together a world that's falling apart, and Sarah, despite hating everything he represents, finds herself drawn to him anyway. Martin and Morrissey have real chemistry on screen. The final episode feels rushed. They tried to compress too much of the novel into too little time. There's a 1974 version with 13 episodes that's considered the definitive adaptation if you want the full story. The novel was written by Winifred Holtby, and there's a story behind it. She was diagnosed with kidney failure in 1931. Doctors gave her 2 years. She spent that time writing South Riding. She worked through crippling back pain and exhaustion because she was determined to finish before she died. She passed in September 1935, 37 years old, a few months before the book came out. It won the James Tate Black Prize, sold 40,000 copies in its first year, and has never gone out of print. 1820s Cornwall. Mary Yellen, an orphan, arrives at the isolated Jamaica Inn on the moor to live with her aunt. What she finds is that the inn is headquarters for a wrecking gang, smugglers who lure ships onto the rocks and plunder them. Her aunt's husband, Joss Merlin, runs the operation. Mary gets drawn to Jim Merlin, Joss's younger brother. He's a petty thief, unreliable but attractive and dangerous. The production got something right that a lot of period dramas miss. You'll notice right away how everyone is dirty. Their hands, their hair, their clothes. Because smuggling is grimy, desperate work, and this show actually looks like that. You can see how dangerous and how hopeless this life is. But the BBC buried the show almost immediately. The first episode aired in 2014 to 6.1 million viewers. By the end of the night, the BBC had over 100 complaints. The sound mix was wrong. Dialogue buried under music and effects. By the end of the 3-night run, over 2,000 people had complained. It made national news. John Challis, the actor from Only Fools and Horses, said publicly that it looked very good, but he hadn't heard a single word. The BBC apologized after episode 1, said there were issues with the sound levels, promised a fix before episode 2. They made adjustments, but complaints kept coming. Viewership dropped, and the show was basically dead before it could recover. Denise is a country girl from a failing family shop. She arrives in a northern English city to work at something new, a department store, one of the first of its kind, run by a charming and ambitious man named Moray. The store is destroying the small traders around it, including Denise's own uncle. But Denise has ideas. She's got instincts for what customers want, and Moray notices. So does Catherine Glendenning, a banker's daughter who also wants Moray, and she brings the weight of capital behind her claim. The retail revolution of the 1870s is remaking the economy and forcing everyone to pick a side. The show is lighter than the novel it's based on. The BBC softened it, made Moray less predatory and manipulative than he was on the page. It ran for 2 series, 16 episodes total, and then it got caught in something nobody saw coming. The Paradise launched on BBC One in September 2012. ITV's Mr. Selfridge, also about a pioneering department store, launched in January 2013. The timing was coincidental, but suddenly the 2 networks were going head-to-head with the same premise. Mr. Selfridge had Jeremy Piven and a bigger marketing budget. The Paradise had the BBC name and critical respect. Mr. Selfridge won the ratings battle, and the Paradise got canceled. It ended on a cliffhanger that's never getting resolved. Dickens and Gaskell were both publishing in the same magazine back in 1854. Dickens actually ran it. It was called Household Words, and he published his Hard Times right before she published North and South. Same magazines, same readers, one right after the other. These are literally sibling novels. If you watch North and South and you want more of that world, Hard Times takes you right back into it. Same industrial England, same factory owners treating workers like parts in a machine. The story centers on a mill owner named Bounderby and an educator named Gradgrind who believes that facts and figures are all that matter in life. Gradgrind raises his daughter Louisa on this philosophy, then marries her off to Bounderby for money, and we watch her slowly come apart inside a marriage that gives her nothing. This particular version was a BBC Schools production from 1994. 4 episodes, 25 minutes each, made for classrooms. You hear that and you think, okay, educational programming, low budget, probably not worth tracking down. Then you look at the cast. Bob Peck is in this, same year he did Jurassic Park. Alan Bates is in it, years before Gosford Park. Richard E. Grant and Bill Patterson are in it. That's the kind of lineup most prestige productions dream about, and they're all doing a program that was meant for teenagers studying Dickens. The sets are simple and you can tell the budget was tight, but the performances are strong enough that you stop noticing. The writer Peter Moffat had a plan. He wanted 42 hours of television about one English family in one village, starting just before World War I and following them through the entire century. 100 years of history through one family in the Peak District. The BBC gave him 2 series and 12 episodes. Then they canceled it and never said why. What we got covers 1914 to the early 1920s. There's an old man named Bert Middleton, and he's narrating the story of his childhood. His family ran a struggling farm. His father was a drunk who hit them, and his mother was the one who held everything together. When war came, his older brother enlisted, and what came back wasn't really his brother anymore. This is the opposite of Downton Abbey. Downton shows you the grand house and occasionally takes you downstairs. The village starts downstairs and stays there with the farmhands and the servants. There's no central love story here and no redemption that makes everything okay at the end. It's a hard watch, genuinely bleak in places, but you do care about the characters enough to keep going. 3 young women from completely different backgrounds show up in Edwardian London in 1902 to work as nannies for wealthy families on Berkeley Square. They have nothing in common except that they all end up serving people who barely notice they exist. They become friends, and that friendship is what carries the show through everything that happens to them. It's basically a well-made Edwardian soap opera. The problem is the ending. The final episode stops on a cliffhanger with several stories left hanging, and a second series never got made. You're going to care about these women, you're going to want to see where their lives go, and then there's nothing. The other problem is that the show has basically vanished. It's been notoriously hard to find since its original broadcast. There's a low-quality version floating around on YouTube, but it's never been properly released on streaming. Picture the worst possible place to start a society. 1788, the coast of Australia. You've got convicts, men and women shipped from British prisons, and you've got Royal Marines guarding them. The convicts outnumber the guards 10 to 1, there are 5 men for every woman, and everyone's one bad harvest away from starving to death. And in the middle of all this, people are still trying to fall in love. That's Banished. 7 episodes covering about 2 weeks of colony life. When it aired on BBC Two, it was their second biggest drama launch that year. Only Wolf Hall did better. The cast was stacked: Russell Tovey, Mayanna Buring from The Witcher and Twilight, Rory McCann from Game of Thrones, the kind of names that make you pay attention. And after 7 episodes, BBC pulled the plug. Russell Tovey went public about it, called the axing a sad day for drama. It's not particularly historically accurate, but it's captivating, and the cast alone makes it worth watching. Sometimes that's not enough to keep a show alive. A man decides his wife is cheating on him. She's not. There's no evidence, nothing real, just a family friend who visits too often and a husband whose mind starts eating itself. The wife refuses to apologize for something she hasn't done. The husband refuses to back down from an accusation he can't prove. Neither one will give an inch, and you watch their marriage disintegrate. Andrew Davies adapted this from Trollope, and if that name sounds familiar, he's the guy who did the 1995 Pride and Prejudice, plus Bleak House, Middlemarch, and Sanditon. He was juggling 25 main characters and 6 storylines across just 4 episodes, and somehow it holds together. David Tennant shows up in a subplot, and honestly, his scenes get more attention than the main story. This was 2004. He was 1 year away from being cast as the Doctor. You're watching someone right before they become a star, and even in a supporting role, you can see exactly why it happened. A drunk man sells his wife and baby daughter at a country fair to a passing sailor. His wife looks at the stranger, looks at her husband, and decides the stranger is the better option. She takes the baby and leaves. The man wakes up the next morning and remembers what he did. He swears off alcohol for good. 18 years later, he's the mayor. Prosperous, respected, a pillar of the community. A man who clawed his way up from nothing and made something of himself, and then his wife and daughter walked back into his life. If this were most stories, that's where the redemption begins. The man gets a chance to make things right. But this is Thomas Hardy, and Hardy doesn't believe in redemption. What you're actually watching is a man fall apart. Every time he tries to fix things, his own nature undermines him. His pride, his secrecy, his instinct for self-destruction. Ciarán Hinds is incredible here. One scene you want to reach through the screen and strangle the man, the next scene your heart is breaking for him. Just know going in that Hardy isn't going to let him have a happy ending. A young woman raised by thieves gets recruited for a con. The target is a wealthy heiress locked away in a Gothic mansion with her creepy uncle. The plan is simple. The thief poses as a maid. A charming con man seduces the heiress. They get her committed to an asylum. Everyone splits the inheritance. So the thief takes the job. She enters the household, gains the heiress's trust, becomes her confidant. She's doing exactly what she's supposed to do, and then she falls in love with her. Sally Hawkins and Elaine Cassidy play the 2 women, and their performances are the reason this works. Their chemistry carries the whole production. You believe the con artist falling for the mark because you can actually see it happening in every scene they share. Here's what came out of it. Guillermo del Toro saw Hawkins in this and couldn't stop thinking about her. Years later, he wrote The Shape of Water with her specifically in mind. That film won Best Picture. Hawkins got nominated for Best Actress.